The piercing scream of chainsaws shattered the morning calm, and my world collapsed, literally. I stood frozen, watching in disbelief as 3 of my cherished oak trees crashed to the ground, their massive trunks splintering under the ruthless blades of contractors hired by the HOA. 20 years of grinding away in a corporate cage, my entire life savings, and my vision of freedom were being hacked apart right in front of me. But Margaret Hensley, the HOA president, stood there smirking behind her designer sunglasses, oblivious to the storm she'd just unleashed. This wasn't just about trees anymore. This was war. 6 months earlier, life had been a different story. The sweet aroma of pine shavings filled my 10-acre haven as I ran my planer over a slab of cherry wood. Sawdust floated lazily in the golden morning light pouring through the workshop windows, and the soft hum of machinery wove a melody I'd grown to cherish. After 2 decades trapped in a soul-crushing cubicle, I'd finally carved out my own paradise at Willow Ridge Lumber and Mill. "Hey, Tom." Jack Carter's deep voice cut through the noise as he ambled into the workshop, wiping sweat from his forehead. My best friend since high school, Jack had been by my side running this place since I opened it 3 years ago. "That custom dining table for the Wilsons is coming along great." I switched off the planer and brushed my hand over the smooth wood. "Should be ready to finish by tomorrow. How's the morning delivery?" "Got 6 cords of firewood headed to that ritzy neighborhood up north," Jack replied with a grin, grabbing his gloves. "These city types sure love their cozy winter vibes." He paused. "Speaking of which, did you see the new signs going up at Crestwood Estates?" I hadn't, but I'd heard whispers about the upscale development inching closer to my land. The kind of place where lawns were manicured to perfection and even the birdhouses needed HOA approval. "They're putting in one of those fancy automated gates," Jack went on. "Guard booth and all. Guess they're aiming for that high-end feel." I shrugged, turning back to my work. As long as they stay on their side of the line, they can build whatever they want. If only I'd known how hollow those words would sound just weeks later. The first red flag waved on a chilly fall morning. I was loading timber onto my flatbed when a sleek silver BMW purred up my gravel drive. The woman who stepped out looked like she'd taken a wrong turn on her way to a yacht club brunch. Flawless gray hair, a string of pearls worth more than my truck, and heels that sank into the dirt. "Mr. Harper," she said, her smile as cold as ice. "I'm Margaret Hensley, president of the Crestwood Estates Homeowners Association. We need to talk about your business." I set the lumber down. "Ma'am, I checked before buying this land. I'm well outside your HOA's jurisdiction." "Oh, I know," she replied, scrolling through photos on her phone. "But your operation is dragging down our community's property values. Those ugly wood piles are an eyesore from our walking trail, and the noise," she wrinkled her nose. "It's just not fitting for the upscale atmosphere we're cultivating." "With all due respect, Mrs. Hensley," I said, keeping my tone even, "this is a working lumber yard. It was here before your development." Her smile tightened. "Things evolve, Mr. Harper. Progress waits for no one. I'm sure we can reach some kind of agreement." The way she lingered on agreement sent a chill down my spine. I'd spent enough time in corporate hell to spot a veiled threat. "My property, my business," I said firmly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got work to do." As she strutted back to her car, I overheard her murmur into her phone, "Plan B it is." Watching her peel away, a knot formed in my gut. Jack appeared beside me, wiping his hands on a rag. "Why do I feel like we just met the devil in heels?" I shook my head, staring at the dust trail. "Because this isn't over, not by a long shot." Looking back, I should have taken her seriously. But I had no clue my quiet life was about to become a war zone, with my lumber yard as the front line in a fight I never wanted but couldn't afford to lose. Margaret's Plan B hit like a sledgehammer 3 weeks later. I pulled up to the yard one frosty morning to find my gate plastered with violation notices, each more ridiculous than the last. Unauthorized industrial equipment, excessive noise pollution, environmental violations. The Crestwood Estates HOA logo gleamed proudly at the top, as if it gave them any real power over my land. I was tearing them down when Jack rolled up in his truck. "Well, look at this," he said, scanning one of the crumpled sheets. "Apparently, we're violating their visual serenity standards." Didn't know logs needed to be serene. "It gets better," I said, handing him another. This one claims our chainsaws break their noise rules between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. You know, normal work hours. Jack snorted. Do these people realize we're running a business, not a yoga retreat? Before I could answer, that familiar silver BMW crept past, slow enough for Margaret to lock eyes with me through her tinted window. She raised her coffee mug in a smug little salute before speeding off. Real subtle, Jack muttered. What's her game? I had a hunch, but no time to dwell. We had orders to fill and firewood to stack. Whatever Margaret was plotting could wait. Except she wasn't waiting. The harassment ramped up fast. First, anonymous complaints to the county about illegal structures. Then the EPA showed up for a surprise inspection. We passed with flying colors, much to Margaret's annoyance, which I could tell from her not-so-subtle drive-by during the visit. Things got uglier when our customers started getting letters, official-looking HOA warnings about supporting unlawful operations, and threats of fines if they kept buying from us. Some regulars laughed it off, but others, especially Crestwood residents, canceled their orders. She's trying to choke us out, I said, watching another customer leave empty-handed. Death by 1,000 cuts. Jack leaned against my office door, his usual grin gone. Maybe we should lawyer up. Not yet, I replied, opening my security camera app. First, we need evidence. That weekend, I installed more cameras, covering every inch of the property. Jack called me paranoid. Until Tuesday night, when the footage caught two figures sneaking in after dark. The video was crystal clear, Margaret Hensley herself, with her jittery assistant, Daniel Price, in tow. They headed straight for my premium hardwood stack. By morning, every log was slashed with neon green X's, ruining thousands of dollars worth of timber for fine woodworking. Gotcha, I whispered, replaying the tape. But my triumph faded that afternoon when 3 black SUVs rolled up. Margaret stepped out, flanked by 2 suits. Mr. Harper, she called, her voice syrupy with fake kindness. I think you know why we're here. I crossed my arms, staying behind my gate. Enlighten me. These gentlemen are from Crestwood Development Corp., she said. Your little outfit is a liability, but they're willing to make you a generous offer for your land. The taller suit offered a business card. We know this is your livelihood, Mr. Harper. Our proposal reflects that. I didn't take it. Not interested. Margaret's smile flickered. Don't be rash. This could get uncomfortable for you. More uncomfortable than trespassing and vandalism. I held up my phone, showing the footage. Her face paled, but she rallied. Careful, Mr. Harper. You're playing with fire. No, Margaret, I said, my voice like steel. You are. And trust me, you don't want to see how I fight back. As they drove off, Jack clapped my shoulder. So much for waiting on that lawyer, huh? I nodded, pulling up my contacts. Call Lisa Bennett. Tell her it's time to go to war. The battle lines were set. Margaret thought she could bully me into folding, but she was about to learn what happens when you threaten a man's dream. This wasn't just about my business anymore. It was about standing up to the elite who thought their wealth could crush anyone in their path. Lisa Bennett's office smelled of leather and resolve. The property rights attorney sat behind her oak desk, watching the security footage for the 3rd time, her face darkening with every frame. When she looked up, her eyes glinted like a hunter's. This is gold, she said, freezing on a perfect shot of Margaret's face. Most HOA tyrants don't do their own dirty work. Mrs. Hensley just handed us a slam dunk. I shifted in my chair. So we've got a case? More than a case, Lisa said, grabbing a legal pad. I want to make this airtight. Tell me, have you heard of other locals having trouble with Crestwood? That question opened a floodgate I hadn't expected. Over the next week, Jack and I quietly reached out to neighbors. The stories poured in like sawdust. A family nursery that lost its water supply, a century-old barn forced to repaint endlessly, a horse stable driven out by fake complaints. Then came the game changer. Daniel Price, Margaret's skittish assistant, showed up at my yard one rainy morning, glancing around like he expected an ambush. I can't do this anymore, he said, handing me a trembling USB drive. It's all here. Emails, meeting notes, the whole scheme. Margaret's been working with developers to push out local businesses. They want to expand Crestwood into a luxury estate zone. Your lumber yard's on their prime target list. Lisa was over the moon when I brought her the drive. This isn't just harassment, she said, skimming the files. It's a full-blown conspiracy. We need a town hall. We scheduled it for Thursday night at the community center. I figured maybe 20 people would show. Instead, the lot was packed. Farmers, shop owners, lifelong residents, all with their own tales of Margaret's reign. She swept in late, her smug grin wavering when she saw the crowd, though she quickly masked it, claiming a front-row seat with her usual arrogance. Lisa took the stage. Folks, we're here because our town's under siege, not from outsiders, but from within, by people who think their progress justifies ruining lives. The evidence hit hard. Security clips, emails, bank records showing shady payments from developers to HOA insiders. With every bombshell, Margaret's polished mask slipped. Then came the testimonies. Mrs. Lynn from the nursery, choking up as she described her dying plants. Old Ben Carter, voice quaking with fury over the harassment his barn endured. When my turn came, I kept it short. This isn't about property values or aesthetics. It's about greed. People who think money lets them steamroll everyone else. Well, some things aren't for sale. Margaret shot up, cheeks red. This is absurd. We're trying to improve this town, bring in growth that benefits everyone. Mr. Harper's outdated business is holding us back. Growth. A new voice sliced through the chaos. Paul Grayson, one of her own HOA board members, stood. Is that what you call cutting secret deals with developers behind our backs? Pocketing cash for yourself? The room exploded. Margaret stammered, but her charm failed her. She stormed out as Lisa leaned over with a grin. Still think we don't have a case? Later, as Jack and I rewatched the meeting in my office, he shook his head. Did you see her face when Grayson turned? Priceless. It's not over. I cautioned, but I couldn't hide my smile. For the first time, we had the edge. Margaret wanted a fight. She was about to get one she'd never forget. The courtroom was hushed as Judge Larson pored over the evidence, her glasses teetering on her nose. Margaret sat stiffly at the defendant's table, a faint tremble betraying her composure. Lisa approached the bench, calm and sharp. Your Honor, Exhibit 27, emails between Mrs. Hensley and Apex Development, dated 3 months before my client's harassment began. Note the phrase about clearing out undesirable obstacles from their expansion area. I watched Margaret's lawyer fidget. They tried to toss the emails, claiming they were illicit, but Daniel's testimony crushed that defense. The jittery assistant had turned into a rock-solid witness, laying out Margaret's plots with brutal clarity. Plus, Lisa added, the security footage shows Mrs. Hensley and her accomplice vandalizing my client's stock. Over $50,000 in damages. The proof piled up, financial trails, victim statements, fake eco-reports Margaret had weaponized. Her stint on the stand was a disaster. Her community betterment excuse unraveled as Lisa held up a blown-up text to Daniel. Tell Harper to name his price before it gets ugly. Margaret snapped. You don't get it. Their businesses drag this area down. We're building something extraordinary. Progress demands sacrifice. Sacrifice. Lisa's voice was ice. Like sacrificing others' livelihoods for your $2 million cut from Apex. The gallery buzzed, the gavel banged. Margaret's face blazed red. The verdict was a knockout. A permanent injunction against the HOA meddling outside its borders, personal damages against Margaret and her cronies, and a criminal referral for fraud and conspiracy. The Real win came later at the community center. The new HOA, led by Paul Grayson, signed a pact with local businesses. No more nonsense, just coexistence. Can't believe we pulled it off, Jack said, watching Paul shake Mrs. Lynn's hand. Did you see Margaret's face when they read the damages? $2 million, plus punitive, she's done. Lisa joined us, smug. The DA's digging into Apex's deals. Margaret might swap her pearls for prison stripes. Business boomed after that. Folks from miles away came to support the lumber yard that fought back. A month later, Paul dropped by with blueprints. New benches for the park. Interested? I laughed. Victory comes in odd shapes. Now, the saws hum, the wood splits, and yeah, it's loud sometimes. But across the fence, I don't see enemies anymore. Just neighbors who learned community isn't built by shoving people out, but by pulling them in. Margaret? Word is she's in Florida, probably hunting another town to fix. She left me a lesson, though, Never mess with a man's dream, especially when he's got cameras and a damn good lawyer.